Hello.
First. Hey, everybody. Great to see you again. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Drive for Five Network, Hour of Power. I'm Mark McIntosh. I'm the managing editor of the Drive for Five Network. And how you doing, co-host Izabela Lundberg? What's been going on?
I'm doing fantastic. A lot of exciting things in world of technology, leadership, and of course, innovation in healthcare space, which
Yeah.
I can't wait to share with audience today. But what's going on with you? You are uber excited and happy. Something magical happened in your world?
Last weekend I was in St. Louis for my nephew's wedding, and I was blessed to be the officiant. And it was such an incredible weekend of just family, friends, new friends coming together, and it was just incredible. And the 8 wedding vows that they wrote that I'd recite it, and they said we do. They were so powerful. And actually, I wrote about it today. Every Friday, I put out a Fridays with Mac, and on social media, and it was just an incredible weekend. So I'm still just kind of floating on cloud nine here, but I can't wait today. We've got 3 amazing individuals that are going to join us here on the Hour of Power, and it's a story of a person who needed a kidney, somebody who donated, and the spouse who walked beside the donor. And I just can't wait to talk to Joel, talk to Kelley, talk to Adam, and just unpack this, because that's what Hour of Power is all about. Is we take a deep dive to try to educate people about live organ donation, staying away from kidney disease, and also just raising awareness to try to advocate for better policies that might help. Because right now we got 90,000 people out there like me who need a kidney transplant, and we only get about 27,000 a year. So we need to educate people, and that's what we're going to try to do here in the next 60 minutes. So
That's fantastic. And thank you for a great overview for everybody that is watching and listening and able to join us. We're going to be introducing our first guest. But what's really important is, as you just experienced this amazing, positive, uplifting union of 2 young people being married, how much we have what love does. Love does magic, right? When we really continue with all the hardships to endure, all unspeakable. And let's bring our first guest here and add him to the stage. That's going to shed some light. Joel, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Well, he's got this big old grin on his face because he received a kidney, but we're really curious. Tell us, what was life like for Joel and your family before you got your kidney transplant?
It was a pretty it was a struggle. Back when I was got very ill, I had to go through dialysis. I was going 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It was 4 hours per day. Um, when we would go to outings, we'd go on a weekend and come back by Monday, and it was just it, because it was not even a little vacation. You know, dialysis it's something serious to take care of. You miss day of dialysis, like killing. However, it was a struggle, but we managed to pull through, and I'm okay. And I'm living very happy.
So, Joel, if you don't mind, you've been obviously diagnosed and with specific, obviously, news that was shocking and unexpected. How that felt for you and your family, and how that impacted you before you even understood what's going on, and what was going on in your mind at those moments when you have to figure all this out and also keep your faith and keep positive.
Well, when I got very ill, it was pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. But I just had to say my prayers, and I had to just I had to stay positive uh, in order to be able to get through. I had to stay strong and go through the routines of what I had to do to be able to survive.
Yeah, and Joel, you bring up a great point because a lot of people out there that are suffering from kidney disease, you don't realize you have kidney disease until it's almost too late. Like when I was diagnosed, I was in renal stage failure and they threw me right into the hospital. So we want to encourage people out there, man, pay attention to potential signs of kidney disease. You know, you're losing weight, you're going to the bathroom way too often, there's foam in your urine, you're not sleeping well. These are signs, but a lot of times, and sounds like maybe in your case too, Joel, I didn't realize it until it was like, whoa, my kidneys are in bad shape.
Right. Yes. That's exactly what happened with me. And when they told me my kidney levels were at 12
Mm-hmm.
and were going down, the numbers were going down. It's not good. And they said once you get to a 5, you're gonna have to go into dialysis. And well, I mean, I knew already, and I just wasn't doing the correct habits of taking care of myself, paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to your body. Your body tells you a lot. If you don't pay attention to your body, by the time you realize it, it's gonna be too late. But at the same time, I was not paying attention too much. I was just like, oh, it's gonna be okay. I have plenty of time, to take care of myself and everything be fine once I take care of myself. That's not the case. Um, and it went pretty quick. My kidney levels went pretty quick from a 12 to a 5, and by the time you know it, I had to do emergency dialysis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
really.
it, it was quite scary. I didn't realize what was going on until like I was laying on the bed and you got to do this and you got to do that and you have all these doctors around you and it's like, wow, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
it's incredible, what was going on. Pretty scary.
Yeah.
And Joe, from that perspective, obviously you are husband, and I believe you're also father. How that impact your family? How that impact your normal day-to-day life?
Um, well, as my kids, they knew about it, and when they got to see that this was really serious, they were pretty scared. Uh, they 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 were just wanting to be next to me at all times, and it was hard when I had to go to the hospital and they were taking me from one room to another emergency room and to doing different other things and there was times where they just couldn't see me and when I was in dialysis, of course, he could have visitors and
Yeah.
that came out, my children, my wife, they were scared. They didn't have no clue what was going on until later on the doctors came in and gave updates and updates and of course they were hysterical and they didn't know what to do and they just wanted to be around me.
Do you mind now sharing on flip side the call you received when they told you you got a donor? Tell us what happened and how this changed trajectory of your life.
Well, when I heard that, well, first of all, my cousin, uh, Michelle Hernandez, she don't wanted to donate a kidney to me, and but we weren't a perfect match.
Yeah.
However, they did explain to her she would do a kidney swap, and she was more than happy to. Um, and once I received the call that there was a kidney for me, I was very excited. Um, I was ready to go. And but yeah, it was such a blessing to receive that call.
And Joel, you bring up an important point that I think we have to educate people, and that's what we're trying to do here on the Drive for Five Network. So your cousin, right, wanted to give you, she wasn't a perfect match, but she was willing to donate, share her spare, gave you the voucher that moved you up the list for a better match, who we're going to meet that person right now. And if you could, Izabela, why don't you can just bring in Kelley and Adam. And so cousin can't help Joel, but she says, I will share my spare to a complete stranger because I know that's going to help Joel. He gets the voucher, and bingo, banga, bonza, along come Kelley Hitchman and her husband, Adam, as the donor and the spouse of the donor. So welcome to the Hour of Power. We appreciate it. And I got to say, Kelley is a Drive for Five correspondent. So we got a family member on here. So thank you all for being here and saving Joel's life. Kelley, thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, well, go ahead, Izabela.
So Kelley, if you don't mind sharing, what prompts you, obviously, to consider to be organ donor, and how all of this transpired?
Yeah, so I really kind of started thinking about organ donation when I was a fellow and I was living in Chicago, and I was just kind of learning about my career in transplantation. And I became very acutely aware of how often people would come up for offers, but how difficult it was for the patients on the national wait list to find compatible donors for all kinds of transplant, but especially for kidney transplantation. I became very intimately and acutely aware that even back then, there were 90 to 100,000 people on the transplant wait list, and that usually about 80% or more of those folks were waiting for a kidney. And I, kind of started to ask myself, well, gosh, these people need donors, and we do living donation. I wonder if I could help someone someday. But, at the time I was a fellow, I was living in Chicago, and it just wasn't the right time for me. And flash forward many years, I came to San Antonio, Texas, and started to work with the team here, and noticed something very special about our patient population here in San Antonio. We have a predominant Hispanic background community, and I noticed that in the national wait list, at least 20% of those on the wait list have a Hispanic background, but 20% of our annual transplants aren't from that demographic. And so I watched those patients struggle. And then during the pandemic, there was a lot of additional social injustice going on in our country that was really brought to the forefront. And then, the pandemic itself made it even harder for people to get transplanted. And those kind of things were kind of the last straw for me. I just didn't feel right sitting back knowing that I might be able to help somebody more than just in my professional context. And because of what I had learned about the makeup of the national transplant list, and because I'm a parent and I know how hard it is to be a parent with 2 functioning kidneys, I could not imagine being a parent and having to juggle, being a wife, being a mother, having a job, on dialysis. It became a mission of mine to donate to someone who had a background different than my own, who would perhaps experience disparity getting off of the wait list, and who was a parent who was trying to do all these things and be a parent. I wanted someone to have the same shot at life that I am so privileged to have. So that's when I decided to kind of quietly go to my center and ask to be worked up to be a donor.
Kelley, what you say is so powerful. It took me back to the 9 months I was on hemodialysis, and I'd have to go to a center like Joel, you were describing earlier. And so many of my friends that were on the same shift, I was on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. They, they talked as we got to know each other. Oh yeah, I got to go home and I got to cook dinner. I got to do this, that. I was going, oh my God, we're fighting to stay alive, but then they got all these other responsibilities. And, my heart just broke for them that, as you've been talking about, Kelley, that dialysis is no fun. And on top of life in and of itself is challenging. And then when you throw in kidney disease on top of it, it can get pretty darn complicated.
And you did also something very special, Kelley. I mean, it's very admirable that the desire, but obviously based on your professional background and how much you knew what's going on, you did also some specific requirements when you chose to make the donation to help specific population that is the most vulnerable. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that, and then how this amazing connection with Joel came about?
Yeah, so after I decided to donate, my center was gracious enough to work with me to try to accomplish my mission. So we looked at every incompatible pair that we had in our center, and we were specifically looking for someone from a Black and brown community, someone from a Hispanic community that was a parent, that was a compatible pairing with me, and that the timing would be right for them and right for their donor. And that started in, I think it was probably November of the year prior. And we found several what we call kidney pair donations, chains of donation. And they always fell through. The timing wasn't right for everybody. The circumstances of people's insurance would change. They would have to go on hold. They were not well enough for transplant at the time. And then finally, I found Joel and his cousin. And I looked at myself with Joel, who I did not know at the time. I really didn't know anything about Joel other than his age and his demographic and his tissue typing. And we looked good. And his cousin looked good with someone else. And that someone else's original donor could take somebody off of the deceased donor list as well, that was also of Hispanic background and had a familial repeated need for transplant within their family. So if we could accomplish this three-way kidney pair donation chain, we would get a pediatric patient transplanted. We would get a family that has a repeated genetic need for transplanted off the wait list. And we could get Joel transplanted and back to his family. And the timing worked out. It actually got pushed up a little bit. I think somebody in our chain, from my recollection, had COVID. And so the timing got moved around a little bit and things were done a little bit last minute. But we got all of the surgeries done. And about a year later, I was so fortunate that to meet Joel. To do that in the United States, kidney pair donation is anonymous. And so all parties have to want to meet and agree to meet. And I would have been totally respectful and okay if Joel had never wanted to meet, but luckily everybody in the chain wanted to meet. So about a year later, we all got to meet.
So wow. I'm just sitting here beaming with this, how this all came together. And I look at Adam, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Kelley met, you went to Loyola in Chicago, played soccer there, and you two met in Chicago. But as you see your wife's passion to help somebody else, especially somebody of color, because this disease, unfortunately, disproportionately is really going after the Black and brown communities. What's going through the mind of the spouse is you watch your wife on a mission to share her spare and save somebody's life?
Well, when I first met Kelley, I knew she was special from the second I met her. And I knew I was going to marry her right away. But as our journey progressed, I realized how even more special and lucky I was just to match and pair with my wife. She gives 110% at this job and at everything she does. And it's really amazing. It's something to look up to. It's wonderful to have a partner that just wants to give and make the world a better place.
But you said something, we talked a couple of weeks ago, and you said something as Kelley was being wheeled into surgery to share her spare. What was going through you?
So I'm a natural happy-go-lucky guy and don't stress too much. I think naturally wonderful things happen to people that are positive. And I've been very blessed. And as we woke up that day, I wasn't really too nervous, but as soon as we got into the room where they were about to give her her happy meds and to make her go to sleep, that's when I really felt anxiety and a level of fear. And I was proud all the days up to that moment. I hadn't felt anything like that. And she, of course, like a champ, was happy, smiling, shaking everyone's hand. And I really didn't want to shake anybody's hand. I just wanted to take care of my wife. That's it. But as she wheeled away, she's just so happy and positive. And I was honestly very nervous for the first maybe 2 hours until I started getting texts saying, hey, progressing along in the surgery, everything's looking good. And then the moment where I actually got to walk back into the room a few hours later and like see her and just see the sheer euphoria of, she's like, I did it. And I was like, of course you did. You do these amazing things all the time. But yeah, it was a little stressful for me, but it was only a few hours. I mean, she did all the hard work, and God bless her. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be a part of this journey. And yeah, I'm happy for Joel and his family and everybody that did an amazing job. Like, I think more people need to understand that the stress on the spouse, when it comes down to it, is very minimal. And we were even joking, I want to say 3 days after the surgery, Kelley and I, we went out for a walk, try to get her moving around outside a little bit, get the fresh air. And she looked at me and said, sometimes I feel like they just made a little like scar, and I feel no different. Right away.
That's something, and then I'll shut up here. But for people that are considering sharing your spare, for most, and Kelley, correct me if I'm wrong, but for most, it is as Adam is describing. You know, you're out of the hospital maybe the next day. You lay low for a couple of days, but then you're up walking around, and within a couple of weeks you're exercising again, and within a month you're kind of back to normal. Is that fair, Kelley? For most people, that's not everybody, we understand, but for most.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. Everybody's experience is different. Yeah, I mean, the day of surgery, after a few hours, they wheeled me upstairs to the unit, and I was able to myself get off of one bed and climb into another. Mm-hmm. The next day I could walk around the halls just fine. I wasn't looking for Joel, I promise. I wasn't looking. I was being very respectful and anonymous. I was not looking to see if everything was okay. Yeah, like the day after that, they make you fulfill a couple requirements for discharge. You got a number 1 and you got a number 2, and that number 2 part was really hard. But as soon as that was over, which was like a day and a half later, I could go home. And so by day 4 post donation, I didn't need any pain medication. About a week later, I could walk about 4 miles by myself. Yeah, I mean, with exception to it takes longer for a cut to heal. So without that little incision, I wouldn't have even thought about it. I was kind of bloated for a couple weeks. I looked about 5 months pregnant for a couple weeks. After that, that's very kind of you. Good answer, sir. With the head shaking, good answer. But yeah, I think within a few weeks, you feel great. I was tired. I'd get tired a little bit faster for really about a year. But yeah, if I didn't advocate these days or talk about my experience, I would have long forgotten that I had done it. There are no physical differences in my life. If anything else, I'm actually more physically active and in better shape now than I was pre-donation.
100%.
And I'm curious, thank you, Kelley, for sharing that experience. I'm curious, how was the journey for Joel to, post-surgery and healing and feeling better? Do you mind sharing what impact that created for you?
Sure. When I came out of surgery, of course, I was in PE for a whole day. After that day, I finally woke up and noticed that my kidney was working very, very, very good at that, and I just kept on having to urinate, and I was like amazed, but at the same time, I was like, I know I have a woman's kidney. And I told my wife, and she's like, why is that? And I said, because I have to urinate like almost every 5 minutes.
You
So,
cry at sappy movies now.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's not
feel-
Kelley. She
Kelly's
likes
not
horror
that
movies.
kind of girl.
I'm really sorry about that.
I'm sorry. But yeah, it was every 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm not liking this. But after that, I recovered pretty quickly. Within the week, I was already up and walking, and my energy was coming back pretty quick, and I felt good, and I was ready to come home. And yeah, it was a brand new kidney working and not having to go to dialysis. It's so yeah.
Dialysis is no fun. You're chained to a machine.
Right.
You're chained to a machine to stay alive. And I'd love to ask both of you, Joel and Kelley, because one thing that I've just noticed on my journey and talking to people that have donated and people that have received, there's such a concern for the person who gave me a kidney, or for Kelley, your concern for Joel's well-being, that to want to make sure that as the donor, my kidney was good enough, and as the recipient that, oh, I hope this hasn't affected their health. Talk about how that's affected, your concern for one another post-transplant.
Say one more time, Mark. I lost you there for a second.
So it's been fascinating to me to see that, like, Joel received a kidney from you, but for the rest of his life, he's going to be very concerned about your well-being. And obviously you're concerned about his well-being, that, and psychologically that can be kind of tough, because some people go, boy, I hope that this kidney was good enough for him, or, if they have good health, or vice versa. They gave me a kidney and I hope that they don't have any problems down the road. And if they do, you move right to the front of the list to get some help. But just talk about emotionally thinking about the other person that was part of this incredible act.
Yeah, well, from my circumstance, I hope Joel never worries about how I'm feeling because I'm a bull in a china closet. So if something ever happens to me, it's definitely of my own doing. Definitely of my own doing. From my side, I think that we all know that even transplanted kidneys don't last forever. They can last a really, really long time, but things happen, right? So this is something that they ask all living donors before they donate. And you do get a psychosocial evaluation, and they ask you, are you prepared for the possibility that your kidney might fail, that your recipient might lose the graft? And that is a hard question to answer, but my intent was to help someone. And knowing Joel and seeing Joel, even if I'm only able to give him, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 40 years, any length of time, not on dialysis, that Joel is able to happily live his life is a win for me. And now that I'm so fortunate to know him, if anything does happen, the only thing I'm going to do is just get out there and beat the street and help him find another kidney. So there will be less than zero regrets on my side, no matter what happens or when or if that happens.
Yeah, Joel, what about that? You in terms of thinking about Kelley and her health?
Right. I always leave it up to God, and first of all, and second of all, I always worry about Kelley, and I know she's in good health and good spirit, and she's always doing her workouts. And but as for me, I do take care of myself very well. I take care of our kidney now.
Our
try
kidney,
to
I like that.
our kidney, yes, and I try to keep it as healthy as I can, and I just take care of myself and take care of my body, and
There you go.
I wish for the best, that I can live a long time, maybe 15, 20, 30 years, yeah.
That's wonderful attitude and aptitude. I have a quick question though. When you guys finally met, do you mind sharing what was happening at the moment and how this came about from each one of your perspectives? Because for Adam, then became real. My wife gave the kidney, and now you're seeing the recipient from different perspective as a spouse, and obviously for Kelley as well, for Joe. So if you don't mind, each of you to share that moment and right now, how is this further developing, what all three of you are doing moving forward as advocacy, as a support, friendship, and so much more.
First of all, when I first met Kelley, she was already sitting at the table to do the reveal of who donated the kidney, the recipient. Dr. Kelley Hitchman was already sitting at the table and shining with the beautiful smile, and she sat right in front. Well, I was sitting right in front of her, and I didn't know who she was, and she was a little quiet for a second. I was a little nervous, but she just started talking, and we just started talking like nothing, and she found out who everybody was, and I was like, wow. And I got one of the biggest warming hugs from her, and got to meet her, and it was so nice, so awesome. Uh, I got to meet her husband and her kids as well, and it was just awesome. They also got to meet my family, my parents as well, and of course my aunt and my uncle because of my cousin that was there. So it was like one big family reunion right there, and it was just a blessing. I was so excited, and yeah.
Kelley?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always hard to know what to say. I think what was it, Joel, maybe about the week before, they have you like try to write something. And it all seems so easy. And it all seems like, oh yeah, I know what I would say, until somebody asks you to say something.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know what to say. And I feel like we all felt that way in the room that day. There's so much in that room, not just me and not just Joel, but 3 donors and 3 recipients in that room. And you can feel, like this tense, like nervous energy. But what a relief. Like for me, there was nothing in the world better than seeing that kidney do its thing. Joel is taller in stature than I am. So when I first saw him, because I didn't know, like the docs know everybody's dimensions. You don't know anybody's dimensions. I stood next to him and I was like, wow, because I'm very short. I'm 5'3" at best, and very short. And I just thought, wow, like, how are you feeling? Good? Are you feeling okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm feeling really good. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like the kidney is doing great. So that was wonderful to see the kidney work in someone, to see it make a difference for someone. And then not just to see it make a difference for someone, but to meet Joel's entire family and see the impact that it has on a person and a family is so overwhelming. And that experience, like a lot of big experiences in life, it just flashes, across your eyes, and it seems like it's over in an instant. So very fortunately, like Joel and I are friends, and we got to talk more since then and hang out, and our families, have gotten together. It's a beautiful thing.
Mm. So in the chat, you can see that Adam posted that Kelley likes to say she's in 2 places now. And it sounds like it's even gone beyond 2 places. It's just spread almost like that wedding I was at. You suddenly get new family, new friends, the whole, we're expanding our horizons here. But I'm curious for you, Adam, watching this all unfold. And you have 2 children, you guys, they're watching this all unfold. But what goes through your mind in all this?
The day that we met, like I was going in really proud, and I was like, oh, I'm going to take 10,000 photos. And then Kelley was just like, well, we need to be respectful, make sure and I was like, oh, but this is just such a great moment. And I want my children to remember this moment. And then getting to meet Joel's family. I mean, we're different side of the city, never met before or anything. And yeah, it was like awkward for literally 15 seconds. But once you saw the smiles between Kelley and Joel and that hug, I was like, all right, we're taking as many photos as we want. It was an awesome moment. I will always remember it. And I hope my children, even though Jackson was pretty young, I hope that he remembers. And if he doesn't, he's going to see plenty of photos. I'll remember that.
That's fantastic. And it's so great to see how now development of relationship happen, advocacy and continuous engagement to advocate for other donors, and as well as obviously talk about specifics related to science and health and aspects that we truly still don't have as much as knowledge. But before we deep dive into, we just really want to emphasize how it was great to meet you, Joel, and finally get face and name together to this amazing story. And we wish you phenomenal ongoing success and hope that that kidney lasts for the rest of your life, if, as they say, whatever you need to do to take care of it. And I know that sometimes things don't play out the way we want, but based on what we're seeing, this is going to be just a remarkable journey, and we wish you absolute the best. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Joel.
And for you, Adam, obviously, we can see not only from leadership standpoint, but it's just in general what it takes to be that part of that power couple, true winning team, and true supporters, not only on someone's career, but also decisions and support for their calling, even though that might be not as traditional. So Adam, you're definitely very special. And for everybody watching and listening, feel free to reach and ask questions, but in the same time, look at what's possible when you think, as they say, outside of the box. Thank you, Adam.
Ooh, and I would like to say really quickly, I think that my kidney is much happier where it is now with Joel. Because one of the first things he told me was right after our get together, our very first meeting, he was going on vacation. You were going to like Corpus or something like that, right? You were going down to Corpus Christi to the beach. And I am a bit of a workaholic and I don't go on vacation. So like the kidney's going on vacation. He's like doing all the things. So my kidney is much happier being Joel's kidney, 100%. And on the spousal front too, have been so fortunate to get to know Sherry, Joel's wife. And I know that if Adam and I are a power couple, Joel and Sherry are the ultimate power couple. So thanks to Sherry for everything that she does too. Because
There she is.
There she is, Sherry. So that's a power couple right there too.
Yeah. Bless you all. And so wonderful to meet you all. And Adam, good to see you again. And we're going to continue with the scientist here to talk about some of the things that we Drive for Five. We're trying to educate people, because a lot of people don't know they can share their spare. They don't know the dangers. Joel talked about how he's really starting to take better care of himself because we have a growing problem in America. We've got 550,000 people on dialysis now. It's expected to go to 1 million by 2030. And a lot of that has to do with our lifestyles. And so we just want to encourage people, watch your weight, watch your blood pressure, stay away from type 2 diabetes because those things kill kidneys, correct? Dr. Hitchman, excuse me. I mean, I think that's something that people, we're celebrating type 2 diabetes that we have. Oh, I got my A1C under control. No, we want to, we need to start taking better care of ourselves. True?
Yeah, that is true. I think there actually, at my institution, we have transplant grand rounds every Friday at 8:00 in the morning. And grand rounds this morning was from one of our transplant dietitians. And she presented some data that showed that by 2030, over 50% of people in the United States are projected to be clinically obese. And so, I think it goes without saying, because some people come upon the need for transplantation based on things that are completely outside of their control. Does that happen? Absolutely. I have seen children come to transplantation that have been in car accidents, that have had vital organ damage. I've seen people come to transplantation because they've been shot. I've seen people come to transplantation because of genetic diseases that are outside of their control. But a large proportion of the need for transplantation is somewhat controllable to an early extent. So there are so many different factors that can come into play. Eating well, sleeping well, being physically active. All of these things are pretty key to trying to do what you can do to stay off of that transplant wait list.
Yeah. If we could, Izabela, if we could put up the link for anybody out there that's been listening and they go, hey, you know what? I'd like to start the process of exploring whether I could be a live organ donor. We've got a link to my National Kidney Registry link, but it's not just for me, it's for the 90,000 people out there that we need help. And at the very least, you get $1 million checkup through the initial blood tests and everything. And then if you take the next step and you save a life, fantastic. But if we could, Izabela, if we could put up that link so people could see what the possibilities are. And I just know this much, Kelley, as somebody who needs a transplant and I want a transplant, but I'm doing pretty well on peritoneal dialysis. And you hear about all these immunosuppressant drugs that you have to take and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything going on right now? Well, I know there is. What's the latest in terms of trying to reduce the amount of immunosuppressant drugs that somebody that does receive a kidney or another organ have to take to stay? Yeah.
Yeah, in general, this can be a lot of things. I think we, can and in a lot of cases do try to look at personalized medicine. Transplantation is at the forefront of personalized medicine because every patient is unique. And on top of that, when a patient needs a transplant, we're talking about a donor involvement too. So then you have to think about the pairing between the patient and the donor, which is even more unique. So I think we can consider a lot of factors about individual patients and the donors that they're paired with to optimize and individualize their immunosuppressive approaches. And I'm not a transplant pharmacist, nor am I a nephrologist or hepatologist or cardiologist or pulmonologist. But I can say that folks that practice in those realms work really hard every day to try to put patients on immunosuppression that they need, that is personalized for them and for their health background and situation. Could we do that more as a community? Yes, I think we could. Other things that we can do are looking at the compatibility assessments very carefully between patients and donors, and trying as much as we can to pair patients and donors together that are compatible in a way such that we could reduce immunosuppression. And that part gets very, very technical, but there are lots of things that lots of different centers and entities are working on to be able to accomplish those things, to find levels of compatibility between patients and donors that are not identical siblings, that can still allow us to minimize immunosuppression.
Such a powerful information, Kelley. And with everything that obviously is now also science advancing, do you mind also expand a little bit about what do you see, what is coming, and what can we really do, either just from someone who is considering being a donor or someone who needs to receive the kidney donation? What would you say, what is happening forefront of innovation and transformation, and what we can look up forward to it?
Mm-hmm. I think something to set the stage for the future should always be where we've been in the past. And so I think that one important thing for the transplant community to do, and I should say that when I say the transplant community, I don't even just mean clinical professionals and scientists. I mean patients, care partners, donors. We should educate each other as much as possible. And so I think it's important for us to remember where we've been. So when folks are looking for a living donor, cast your net broad. Ask your friends if they're not willing to be a living donor. Will they be willing to be a living donor champion? Will they help you advocate? Will they help you educate? Be aware that you don't need to ask for people to come forward for you that you think look like you or share a certain demographic. Joel and I are a great example. We were well compatible. I, don't have the same background that he does, but we were a nice compatible fit. So you can't make assumptions. You don't have to be the same blood type to be compatible. And if that does present a compatibility issue, you can do what Joel and I did and go into a kidney paired donation where you're swapping donors with other pairs to find better compatibility. So don't do put bumper stickers on your car, do put billboards up, do put your story on social media, do advocate for yourself and have your friends advocate for you, but don't put out there, I'm a blood type this and I need a blood type this. You actually don't. We've been able to do ABO incompatible transplantation since the 80s. So I think that's a common misconception. So we should educate each other about the misconceptions. Just as much important, or even maybe more important than blood type compatibility, is tissue compatibility. And that is much more complicated and something that we look at. There are lots of very nuanced approaches at lots of transplant centers in the United States, looking to better pair people's tissue compatibility on a molecular and a genetic level. That is something that we've been working on for several years now, and that will only get better moving forward into the future.
And that's your area of expertise. That's what you're on the ground floor doing each and every day at the University of Texas San Antonio Medical Center, correct? I mean,
Yes,
you're
that is what we do in my laboratory. Yes. Yeah. So we look at patients and donors at a genetic and a molecular level and try to pair them together for success. And we work with the multidisciplinary teams to determine together what that means for the patient's immunosuppressive treatment, what that means for how we need to monitor them post-transplant, and even what that means if they should happen to start rejecting their organ. How can we treat that? Because that's not always, a terminal thing for the graft. Sometimes we can treat those situations. So I think those things are important. I think flashing forward into the future, you're going to see more of that. You're going to see, of course, something really big in the news right now is xenotransplantation, which is still extremely new. So I think there's a lot of excitement, and that excitement is warranted. But I would caution that we still have a lot of science to work out and a lot of safety to work out in that area. And that right now, I think that's seen as more of a bridge to human-human transplant than a replacement for that. But that has come very far in a very short period of time recently, for sure. Yeah. There are lots of things that people are working on. People are have been working for years now on 3D printing organs, on decellularizing organs and recellularizing them so that they don't cause rejection in the same way.
I'm curious. So, there's 90,000 people out there like me that need a kidney, like Joel, and we're only getting 27,000 transplants a year. You mentioned this earlier. 80% of those are from deceased donors. Why has the needle not moved in the last 25 years? We're kind of stuck at 6,500 live organ donations a year, and it hasn't moved for 25 years. What are we, the ones that are, and it's not just Drive for Five and UTSA, and there's a lot of people out there in this space working hard to try to get more people to share their spare, but the needle has not moved. Why do you think that is?
I would say a large portion of it is fear. I think that people see taking a part of themselves and maybe not, it's not even just the aspect of giving that to somebody else, but just taking a part of themselves seems frightening. That's a legitimate concern, right? So I think we need more education in that area. There are lots of living donors and living donor programs that are out in communities educating about what living donation really is and what it's not. There are a lot of myths out there. So Donate Life America has wonderful educational resources on living donation. Certainly the National Kidney Foundation has great resources as well. The current Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network has some resources for that as well. And there are lots of other private advocacy groups. I myself started a chapter of Donate Life America's WELD. We encourage living donation here in San Antonio, and there are WELD chapters all over the country. It's just living donors going out into the community and really saying what living donation is and the impact that it has, and dispelling the myths surrounding it.
Well, do you have a website or something? Can we splash that up? Because I think one of the challenges is that people get confused. There's so many places to go that I think to make it easier for the potential donors and to walk beside them, because they're absolutely critical, right? I mean, we got this big gap. Yeah, donatelife.net. I think we've got to just do a better job, and that's Drive for Five. That's what Drive for Five is all about, is just trying to educate, bringing on people like yourself, Kelley, that we can just help everybody understand, hey, you can share your spare and save somebody's life, and stay away from kidney disease because it's no fun and stuff like that. But I think education, as you said, education is the key. And we just thank you so much for being here and I love it every time you put together a video of Drive for Five correspondent Kelley Hitchman, and you're wonderful, wonderful ambassador for live organ donation and all that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I just want to also highlight that Dr. Pauline Crawford was also mentioning how amazing information it's being shared, and echoes that sentiment, but it also understanding why things are not moving as they should, and how this is a fantastic opportunity. And that's why we're going to be continue doing these lives where we can not only educate audience, but also everybody who might find themselves in the scenario where they are able to give, or they're in wait list and waiting to receive organ transplantation, and how this can change and make things much more impactful. Thank you, Kelley, for all amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Have a good weekend.
You also.
Yeah. Izabela, before we get out of here, I got to share a story. I was at a men's fellowship deal earlier this week, and I've spoken to this group a couple of times, and so I know a lot of the guys that go to this, and I was talking to a couple of them, and one of the guys, I hadn't seen him in a while, and he goes, "Boy, you've lost a lot of weight, and are you feeling okay?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I feel okay, but amyloidosis killed my kidneys. I need a kidney transplant." And he went, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe this, but a couple of nights ago, I had a dream that woke me up. And that dream was basically telling me, you need to donate your kidney to somebody." And so I handed him one of my cards, which is just like that, the link you see there, nkr.org, MCF 936. But the point is, for everybody, for the 90,000 people out there like me, that we need a kidney transplant, I just want to say thank you to everybody out there, like the Kelley Hitchmans of the world, that you're willing to take that step, get the testing, and save somebody's life, whether it's my life or somebody else. I just, on behalf of the Drive for Five network, I'm just so grateful for everybody out there that is sitting around kind of going, you know what? I'm in pretty darn good shape. And I want to give back with significance. You're making a difference and you're saving lives. And so I just want to thank everybody out there and spread the word if you would, because we need help. We got 90,000 people out there that need kidney transplants, and it's getting worse. Kidney disease is getting worse. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
That's fantastic. I have a great call for action. And right now we shared the links. And also, as you mentioned, it's a over or $1 million checkup, as they say, where you really go through
It's free.
Physical exam and find possibility if you're a good match and what's going on, or find something like I did, that when I wanted to be a liver donor for my aunt, and turns out that I at that time discovered something that really was life-changing for me, and as a result shifted everything in my life. Preventatively, I found something very early, but then helped to change trajectory. If I didn't, outcomes could be completely different, or maybe I would not be here today. So it's so important, again, to put your health priority as a priority, put yourself as a priority, and also think about it. How do you play in all of these games? Because if you know someone that is hurting, that needs help, someone that also doesn't know where to go, or just simply want to take action, now you have opportunity not only to be educated, but also opportunity to engage and make a tremendous impact, as you've seen what Kelley did, and Adam, her husband, to support Joel, and what amazing ripple effect, right?
Yeah. And again, you don't have to be a match. As long as you're just willing to share your spare, you can help. You can get a voucher that could help a loved one, or you get a voucher and you can list 5 family members that down the road, if they would need help, they can use that voucher. So, just take that step to get tested. That's what we're just trying to encourage people to do. And again, you can go to the link you see, nkr.org/MCF936. That'll get you started. And then the link that Kelley provided about donatelife.net, it'll answer a lot of questions if you still have more questions. So, Izabela, it went fast. It was a great hour. We took a deep dive, and just thank you for making it all happen back there in Control Central.
Thank you. It's been great journey to co-pilot and co-create this with you, and we look forward to see you all next time. Thank you so much for everyone for supporting. And again, I just want to say, Mark, for someone who is waiting for a donor, who is going through a lot, and it still keeps smiling and keep positive and rallying up for everybody else, kudos. And I just want to say again, you're a perfect example to show what's possible. And again, everybody watching and listening, dig deep, decide, make a call, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more amazing stories like we had a chance to hear today.
Yeah, take that first step. Just go get tested. Doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's $1 million checkup. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. To the next time. See you soon.